a little bit different curriculum than I'm used to teaching. And I think I'm more nervous than anything because I'm the most passionate about this curriculum. My motivation to start teaching this and to bring all of you wonderful people together was sort of dually motivated. First and foremost, I think all of us have felt an extreme heaviness during COVID. We also were probably from different periods isolated with ourselves, and we had to focus on our own mental constructs and our own minds and grapple with a lot of things that pre-COVID we didn't have to because life was so busy. So I think for a lot of us, it probably bubbled a lot of things up to the surface. And for myself, especially, massive amounts of anxiety. Not even sure where they're coming from, but again, just this feeling of, I need to get a hold of this. I need to figure this out. And I think, again, that's where a group like this can be extremely positive because it's a safe space to talk about the things that nobody ever talks about. You know, we get together with our friends and we all pretend our lives are perfect and we all are like, oh yeah, no, things are great and my business is awesome and I'm making money and things with the husband are fabulous. Or else it's the absolute opposite and, you know, we're drawn to negativity and that victim mentality, but it's still not necessarily authentic. When you really drill down to why you might be talking about some of those things, a lot of times the actual pain behind why you're bringing something up isn't the actual pain itself. So you might be going through stuff inside and let's say, you know, your grandmother's sick and really you desperately need human connection and somebody to hear you, like really hear you and really see you. But then you kind of fall back on, oh, my grandma's sick, you know, and then the focus kind of becomes about that topic, which isn't really the real root of your pain. And so nothing ever gets solved and it just kind of gets compounded and layer upon layer upon layer. And then we have to go out into the world and pretend that these layers don't exist. So what the Course in Miracles essentially teaches, and like I explained last time, I'm going to teach it only from my own perspective. It was my perspective in reading the text. The text also says, and that's why I kind of did the questioning with you guys and said, has anybody ever read it? The Course is so that you can also learn to teach others. The whole premise of the Course is we're going to digest everything it says. It was written by two psychotherapists that were very high-level psychotherapists, very, very learned people. And they were trying to figure out a different way to help patients, not putting them on medication and having them adjust with life. And then all of a sudden, what they would call this divine intervention caused them to write this text. And you'll see it's heavily laden with specifically Christian terminology. I myself am spiritual. I believe all religions are valid for the cultures that utilize them. I feel all religions also have a certain aspect of them that are inauthentic when they try to control people, when they basically ask those participants in the religion to judge others. Anytime that we're judging others or called to attack other people, that's not a basis of divine teaching. That is the ego projecting something onto probably some very beautiful teachings, but that's not what God's about. And then there is the word God. It means so many things to so many different people, but essentially I think if we kind of distill it down, it just means love, safety, comfort, hope. It is that thing that we can't, it's non-tangible, but we all in the back of our minds, wonder if it's there, hope it's there, and hope that there's something a little bit more sane than we are driving the ship. I think, we can all say that, right? And that's, again, what this course teaches is it's that aha moment where we can let go, we can take a deep breath, and we can say, I don't have to drive the ship anymore. Somebody else has designed this universe. There's laws behind all of this. The laws are beautifully elegant, and the laws are in place to protect me. And once you start to realize that and you stop attacking reality, things start to flow. They just naturally and magically fall into place. There is no question in my mind that this school magically fell into place. I do work hard, but things always lined up beautifully to make it possible that were divine, out of my control, and still every day I go, what? Really? Like, how? Okay, and again, it's not like, I'm not saying that I don't work hard. Absolutely, I work 7 days a week, but you can work 7 days a week sweeping the streets, and you're not, you're still working hard. So again, there's things that will fall into place when you start to change your thinking, and that's what I found for myself, and that's what I want to teach to students, to people that, if you know of people that are struggling, if you know of people that are just exhausted, unsure of where to go, where to turn, that's what this is about. And again, too, the premise of this is that I am an instrument of information transfer. I'm not above, I'm not below, everything is equal. So there's going to be times in these sessions where any person at any time will have insight or a revelation that is so beautiful and meant for each and every one of us, including me. So again, it's getting away from this hierarchical society that we built, where we feel that there's people on the top and people on the bottom, and that we have to somehow disempower ourselves or become lower than, or also in that realm of self-esteem where we feel we're not good enough. This course is meant to break down those improper thought patterns, because that's what's keeping us trapped in a mindset of lack, a mindset of personal frustration, and also getting away from this core belief we have that we are this body. We are in a body. A body is a learning instrument. So this is a tool we've been given for 20, 60, 80, 100 years. And once we're done with this learning tool, it is going to become elemental again. And that does not have to be scary. So it's a whole different perspective of life, death, the whole meaning and the enormity of the universe. Because again, these are conversations that we don't always have. But in the back of our minds, at any time that any one of you have ever been in fear, the fear is always the root cause of one particular fear. And that fear is our fear of nothingness, our fear of death, the fear that we project onto everything, thinking, well, what if all of this is for nothing and I just one day cease to exist? Or what would that be like? Or, our brains they're not really designed to be able to answer that question. So that's the question, again, that leads to a lot of the fear that we have. Because, when you trace anything back, it's going to go back to that starting point. So, again, the goal is to get your mind and to start to look at the thought forms that your mind is creating. So when you get up in the morning, is the first thing that you're doing grabbing your phone and giving yourself a mental dialogue of all of the scary things that are going on in the world, the wars, COVID, things that are insurmountable, you can't fix them, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, skill number one, turn that off. If there's nothing you can do about it, you're going to feel extremely disempowered if you are constantly looking at the news feeds or looking at what's going on in the world and becoming fearful of the world itself. The only thing that can happen from that is that you are going to internalize all that fear and you're going to become a complete mess, okay? We all know right now what's going on in Ukraine and with the rest of the world. We cannot fix it in this moment other than what we can do in our own minds and hearts. So if it calls you, do the thing that you can. Talk to the friend, send a parcel, and then let it be. Because there's nothing physically else you can do by sitting there and taking that mental digest of negativity, okay? The other thing is depression, okay? I want to talk about that. Now, who in this room has ever gone through any type of depression? Okay, good. I had actually such an amazing day today because I had this relapse into a massive depression between yesterday and today, and I'm like, what is going on? I thought I got over this. This shouldn't happen anymore. And I realized that it took me on this information gathering. I need to fix this. I need to fix this before this class. I'm teaching a class tonight and I can't be depressed. And so I studied and studied and studied all day. I took the day off. And what I realized about it was the root cause of my depression was absolutely disempowerment. So anytime you're feeling that heavy, condensing feeling of depression, I want you to close your eyes and think about a moment when you were disempowered. This might have been when you were 10 years old and the teacher told you to stop talking. It might have been when you were with your boyfriend and, he told you that you look tired and, something like that. There could be a million reasons. Or maybe you were in front of your boss and you had a really great idea and all of a sudden your boss cut you off and made you feel small. When we feel disempowered, we instantly go inside, we internalize it, and if we don't have an opportunity to face our oppressors or somebody that has told us we're not good enough, that is going to take seed within ourselves. And because we live and we have dialogue and this is happening all the time, you have all of these little moments of disempowerment living within you that you haven't been able to fix. And so then, because the human brain is meant as a problem-solving mechanism, it starts to try to figure out reasons why you weren't good enough in these moments. So then a self-dialogue starts. Well, you know what, I'm not pretty enough. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm not smart enough. I didn't do a good job. You know what, my opinions didn't matter anyways. I'm just not that caliber of person. Or I wasn't a good enough mother. I wasn't a good enough daughter. All of the things that your egoic minds start telling you as to why we're validating this disempowerment. And the most amazing thing happened after I did that exercise. Instantly, my energy went through the roof and I was like, yeah, that's right. The heaviness I was feeling was because there was a few different things that happened in the week that were extremely disempowering for my life. I had no control over them, and I wasn't able to solve those problems. And now I'm back in that place, right? And for me, it was cancer, okay? Two people very important to me recently, I found out, have cancer. And I didn't, I can't fix this. There's no problem solving. And there's not a lot of dialogue that I can have right now in my world, being a president of companies and all of the brushy things I have to do and on and on and on and on. I don't have the space to be able to be the support system I want to be, because if I let one ball fall, everything comes crashing down. So in that week, I just felt completely disempowered, and therefore this oppression of that depressing feeling came over me. And so again, I think it's about learning to identify these thoughts, and once we understand why something is happening, then we have a good roadmap on how to fix it. And once I understood that that's why I was feeling the shame, the guilt, the overwhelmed thoughts that I was having, I could look at them in a proper mirror, or basically look at them head on and say, no, you know what? I'm doing the best I can do, and I don't need to feel this heaviness. And again, part of the Course in Miracles is having the permission to give it to a higher order, to give it to a higher power. I'm not trying to stand up here like a preacher or anything like that. It's just saying, you know what? If we look around, things are in pretty good order. Not the human stuff, but the clouds are moving, the grass is growing, the seasons are happening, the earth is spinning around the sun as it should. Order is in place. So I don't know, and I'm one of them, why humans have to completely, mess things up all the time and create disorder. But we do it very well. And it's at the detriment of our own lives. It's at the detriment of our own peace of mind to not let go and relax a little, okay? All the money in the world isn't going to make you happy. Yet we run around like, rats in a maze trying to create more and more and more and more. And you get to that point that you thought was more, and then it's not great enough. And then you get to the next point that you thought was more, and lo and behold, you're not happy. And so then you work a little harder, get a little more, and you're still emotionally bankrupt. So there has to be another path to take yourself out of this emotional bankruptcy and the superficiality that we come across daily in our lives, and that is connection. So first of all, it's having a community that sees you, okay? Where at your very lowest, you're accepted. When you are winning the medal or winning the gold, you're also celebrated, because in this world, you don't see that very often. When somebody is at the top, we want to find a million reasons why they didn't earn it, why they got it a free ride, why they're not entitled to it, whatever it may be. And maybe we call that jealousy, who knows? Okay, it's a good term for it that we all understand. And we've all been there, looked at somebody else, maybe the Kardashians, I don't know, I don't want to be a Kardashian, but they have a pretty fabulous life online. But you look at them and you say, well, they've it was all given to them, or their father was rich, or whatever it is. You never put that human element up against that person and give them the real praise they deserve. And what that does is it breaks pieces within yourself. Because when you can't celebrate another individual being's success, you really can't celebrate your own. And the same thing with when we get to a point where we're really, really low, it's not easy for people to ask for help because they've been pretending everything is so great. So when you're in that position where basically everything is falling apart, or you're having thoughts of maybe not wanting to be here anymore, or not feeling like you don't have enough to go on, who do you say that to? Who can you honestly say, hey, you know what? I had this really scary thought of just not wanting to exist anymore. How do you place that? It's not a common day conversation that people have, but it's a necessary conversation, because it's the part that needs to be fixed the most. It's that part that once that is fixed, and once you feel safe within your community, within that bubble that you can create around you, everything else becomes fun. Then you can create, then you can play, then you have your cheerleaders around you. And so again, that's why I set up this course, is that hopefully those of you that go through this course will intimately understand each other and learn about each other, and it will become almost like a group of minds that join together in a powerful way, but that protect each other. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a protection mechanism so that no one has to carry all the weight. And again, that's extremely powerful. If you knew without a doubt, tomorrow you could walk out the door and say, okay, I've got a team of 10, 20, 30, 50 behind me, and I know they're so solid. I know they'll never, stab me in the back or hurt me, or I can trust them. That's almost unheard of nowadays. It's unheard of. And so, but we have to figure out why it's unheard of, and we can't project the blame onto other people. We have to look within ourselves, because anytime you go to fix something, you've got to look inside. So we're going to start with that feeling of purposelessness, or not knowing what your purpose is. Our purpose, and part of what the Course teaches, is that our purpose is to heal one another. That is the only purpose that we have here. It's to lift each and every one of us up. It's to see no distinction between the other. So that being a man, a woman, a homeless person on the street, it is to see and to re-recognize the light in each and every being and help them to remember their light. That is our purpose. And right now, absolutely, we all feel it. Humanity is in a dark place in many ways. We have a lot of trauma that we're living through. There's a lot of attack going on. But if you start to understand the world from a quantum mechanical perspective, that all of us, okay, what we're seeing, if we can understand that essentially it's a projection. So, we see our hands, our legs, our tissues, and then if we go a little bit deeper, we have the actual cells that make up our tissues, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper into our cellular layers, and then we have the molecules that make up the cellular structure that is us. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper, and then we're going to see the atomic structure of our cells. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper, and we're going to understand that the actual infrastructure of all of us is just a wave pattern. So each and every one of us is our own unique song. And that's actually what we are, because you can't build something out of vibration from the bottom up and have it be matter at the top. We perceive it as matter, and that's fine. That's where we are right now. But once we understand that the actual currency of this entire universe is consciousness, this is where we start to touch the precipice of what our existence is about. We are consciousness. We're consciousness right now that we perceive in a three-dimensional reality. And that might sound a little bit science fiction, but that's actually what we are. And right now, in a body, we perceive our separateness. So we see each other in separate little bodies, and therefore, we do not recognize our unity. And it's easy for us to then attack or feel judgment or feel anger towards these separate little bodies that exist. But when we truly understand that the entire universe is in fact this symphony of essentially vibration, we can start to utilize that knowledge to reconstruct our very reality from the bottom up. Okay, so I'm gonna pass out this so that you guys can look at this chart, and it's a little bit about vibrational frequency. And I don't know, most of you have probably seen this before, but if you haven't, I'll explain a little bit about it. Is there enough for everything?
I can.
Here. Thank you.
I can share. Would you like to?
That's okay.
Okay, because I have a problem.
So essentially, if we look down at the very low vibrational states, we get things like shame, fear, guilt, apathy. Those are going to be when our state is at its least vibrant or most dull. It's when we feel apathetic, when we feel like we are hopeless, we don't know where to turn. We 100% will not feel very alive. Our aliveness is definitely dampened when we're in those constructs of mental patterns. As you move up, desire, anger, we also have pride. These you'll feel a little bit more empowerment within the body, so you have more of an ability to take action. But the action is stemming from an egoic kind of center point, rather than this idea of unity and helping others. And once we start to get into this, so there's neutrality is in the middle, and again, that's sort of where we're not one way or the other. We're just kind of at an even keel. That's not a bad place to be. It's not dark, it's not low, but it's also not the purpose of creation. It's not the purpose of life, okay? Life is supposed to be beautiful and vibrant and blissful, okay? And then you start to go up and we see willingness, reason, love. And love is the point that I kind of want to bring home today anyways. The chart goes up from there to peace, joy, enlightenment. And essentially when you get to the state of enlightenment, you don't necessarily need a dense body at that point. That's kind of far beyond where we're going to go, certainly in our first session of the course, and I'm sure everybody that's listening is still interested in being in a body. But there are going to be people that have had, they'll feel in some way that they're on their last lifetime, and that's not a bad place to be as well. If that's part of what's in your auric field, that this is, potentially your last lifetime, then you're going to be more interested in pushing your vibrational frequency towards that 1,000 and higher, so that you could move into this less dense, more of a light body existence, okay? Then again, that's very, very far off the spectrum, and I want to keep this real world for most of today. But there's some definitely exciting aspects to this, and what I want you to really start taking home is to start watching when those negative feelings and vibrations, because you'll feel your body vibrate. When you start feeling really excited, or when you help another person and you see them come alive, like when you're teaching or something like that, your whole body will start to feel at a higher vibration, and you just have more energy naturally. You'll actually feel more alive, and you won't need as much sleep, you won't need to eat as much, you'll just have all of these magical transformations that come along with this high vibrational state. I mean, a lot of us are in the beauty industry. It will also correlate to a certain light being around you. It will be a more lightness to your cellular structure. You will feel and you'll perceive everything as more beautiful. So what you see around you will feel more magical. It will just seem to have more light attached to it. And that is because part of that mystical experience of going up this vibrational scale is that you will literally start to see your world transform, because the world is a construct of our inner world. And so therefore, because humanity is a collective consciousness, right now you're seeing a collection of a lot of darkness. The way that we can fight back, essentially, okay, is by changing our own being and then helping as many other individuals along the path that we can. And there's no order in miracles. That's one of the things that this course teaches, okay? Miracles don't necessarily have to be, moving a mountain. A miracle can be saving a life of somebody that needs to be saved, being that bright light that wakes another person up. That's just as powerful as a miracle as parting the seas, okay? So again, once you start to transmute this idea of miracle-mindedness, your purpose becomes instantaneous. Your purpose is to love and guide each and every one of the human beings you come into contact with. And as you sort of ascend up the scale, it's not just human beings, it's every being. You are walking down the street and you see an ant and he's in a puddle, and you're going to scoop him up because it's an act of service to the universe. That act of service says, I am love, and love sees no boundaries. There are no boundaries within unconditional love. So you become a vessel of that unconditional love. And as that becomes your purpose, none of the other things matter. The money doesn't matter, the way you look doesn't matter, the fancy cars don't matter, but they come. They just start to kind of manifest. And the strangest thing is you won't care about them. They won't be important to you. And then you'll go, oh, I get it, God, or I get it, universe. It was never about that in the beginning. And you've taken me on this journey to understand that to my core. And again, it's about how many people we can pull up onto the life rafts. Think of the Titanic. You're that, in a dark night, you're rowing that boat and you're pulling in as many people as you can. And every day that you pull a few more up, it's a beautiful day. And then you get up and you want to do it again because it was so amazing and you saw so many more people come alive and feel alive, and you watch as the fear and the walls and the barriers slowly come down, and it's a kind of high that it's irreplaceable, and it's also, there's no bottom to it. The bottom never falls out. You get that crush or whatever, and you pursue some guy or some woman or whatever it is, and all of a sudden they leave you high and dry, and the bottom falls out. Or you're chasing that job or that business that you just thought, once I get this success, everything is going to feel magical, and then you get there and you're like, oh, okay, it's not magical, and then you feel down again. I guarantee you, when you help another life, the bottom never falls out. There's never any negative residual exchange in the universe. It's only a positive exchange. And so once you start to get into this zone, it's what we were meant to do. It's what our beingness is for. So again, things will start to fall away, because again, when you're in a blissful state, there's no fear, there's no shame, there's no guilt, there's none of these lower vibrational thought forms. And so also, it's important that you prime yourself to be able to become a vessel that can help others. So paying attention to your negative thought patterns, paying attention to any point where you're becoming or falling into a victim mentality, like, oh, woe is me, or I'm not good enough, or this always happens to me. Unfortunately, in the world, the way that the universe works, when we think it's often manifests. It won't necessarily manifest exactly how we've had the thought form, but the vibrational manifestation will happen. So have you ever noticed when things are going wrong in your life and you're thinking about them a lot more things keep going wrong? That's due to the fact that in a quantum level, you're attracting that same vibrational frequency into your surroundings. So you're attracting that same vibration. So more of what you are putting out draws into you. So again, it takes a little bit of time, and we all do it. So the other thing is, don't beat yourself up if you have these negative thoughts, because every one of us in a three-dimensional body has them. That is why we are here. It is to start paying attention to the thoughts and to start learning how to control your own mental mechanism. Your body is a machine. Your mind, though it will play tricks on you, can be controlled. It is a beast worth taming, I tell you. And once you get a hold of it, you can do magical things with your mind. But it's about consistency, and it's about keeping and sustaining a high vibrational existence over a prolonged period of time. And eventually that just becomes your natural state.